In honor of Women's History Month, I am honored to be sitting down with two incredible women in the Memphis Grizzlies organization. Two women who, outside of working in sports, are also multi-sport athletes themselves. I welcome in Corinne and Sarah. How are both of you doing today?
Good, thank you so much.
Doing great, happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, I'm so excited for people to get a chance to know a little bit more about your lives outside of working for the Memphis Grizzlies. Both of you competing in sports in your own right. And Sarah, I'll start with you. You are a triathlete, and I will ask what that means and what the training of that entails.
Triathlete is 3 sports, so swim, bike, and run. There's a lot of different ways to race in that capacity. So there's everything from a sprint distance, which is your shortest type of race, all the way up to a full Ironman, which is outrageously long distances to be swimming and biking and running. Everyday training looks a little bit different based on what kind of race that I am training for. Being an athlete my whole life, I've really gotten into the training that focuses on a race. I'm not a great person that just likes to go work out. I like to go work for something and compete for something. So training looks a lot like a different sport every day. Sometimes I swim in the morning, sometimes I bike at lunch, and sometimes I'll run at night. When you're training for 3 different sports, variety is really important. And when we think about the distances of each sport, depending on what your goal is of that race, you can make a lot of progress or cut down a lot of time on a bike or a run versus swim being the shortest distance. So I personally tend to focus a lot of my training on biking and running and do a little less swimming, knowing that that's the least amount of time I can cut off in any given race, and really I can make more progress and more gains in my biking and running.
Corinne, you are a pentathlete. Triathlete 3, pentathlete 5. What are the 5 sports that you train for, and what does your training look like?
The sports in the pentathlon include running, swimming, fencing, equestrian show jumping, and pistol shooting. And my days, similar to Sarah, I stack up on days before and after work. It can be running, it can be swimming, it can be fencing training. It's definitely a balance trying to figure out, especially during the season, working around Grizz games, working around different events, but it definitely proves for an interesting week every week.
I'm exhausted listening to both of you, and the time management skills have to be unreal. I'm curious from a standpoint of working in sports while also pursuing your own individual sports on the outside. What translates there? What do you think gives you maybe a boost in the workplace because of your experience outside? And Sarah, I'll start with you.
I think a lot of what we do on the business side of sports is results driven. Everything we do, whether we're working on a sales pitch to close a deal, or we're working on a marketing campaign to, build brand awareness, or a social campaign, everything drives back to what are the results, what is the data behind it, and what's the so what of why we're doing it. When you're training for your own sport, you look at and you're working on, okay, what's the next big thing I can do, or what's the small incremental change I can do today to get better as an athlete tomorrow. So whether it's, looking at data from a run that says, my cadence was up, or I need to work on my heart rate, or I'm looking at the data for a social campaign to see how can we get better, how can we integrate a partner better, or how do we sell one more ticket to a game. Always looking at the data and thinking about the so what behind what I do is in the identity of who I am as both an athlete and a sports professional.
And Corinne, I'll ask you the same thing. Working as a coordinating producer and within the video department, how does your life outside as a pentathlete help translate into the workplace?
I think being a pentathlete has vastly helped my organizational skills. I plan my week every week. I look at what we have to do for the week. I look at what I have to do for the week, and from there I just write it all out and I figure out what my schedule looks like, what my work schedule looks like, what my team's work schedule looks like. And I think it's just really helped me improve my organizational skills, as well as, maybe Sarah can relate to this. Being an athlete, I think it's easy to compartmentalize things. It helps me to really compartmentalize what I need to do, what I need to work on in and outside of the workplace.
The ability to, take small increments of your day, whether it's like you're saying, I got to do a schedule an interview at 10:30, but I've got to be in a meeting at 11, and then I've got to make sure I'm out the door by 4 so I can get my run in. That ability to organize and really compartmentalize. One day it's sports and business, and we're talking about interviewing a player, we're talking about interviewing a partner, versus now let's switch to, okay, let me go get my run in, let me focus on this for 30 minutes and then get back to it.
That's the technical side of things. One of the best things about sports are the emotions behind it. They can be high, and working in sports can be that, but as athletes yourselves, you experience it to a different degree. What's been the proudest moment of your career as a multi-sport athlete, Corinne?
For me, the proudest moment of my pentathlon career was making the U.S. national team this year and last year. I've gotten to go to beautiful countries to